Okay, let's use a diamond.
I've talked about some relatively broken moves in the past, such as Rob's Gyro, Cloud's Back Air, and Joker's Fair One. But these moves aren't really that broken. They're just really good. But today's move is genuinely broken, and arguably the best move in the entire game. This is Steve, and this is his up tilt. This simple upward swing is better than anything else in the game. Let me explain. There's three main reasons. It's extremely safe on shield. It's fast and Steve can move while using it. And of course, there are the insane combos and confirms that he can get out of it. There's also a secret fourth reason, but I'll get into that later. Trust me, it gets interesting. Let's go over the first reason. If Diddy uses F tilt on Cloud's shield, he can get punished by up smash. But if he instead uses down tilt, he can shield before the up smash comes out. This is because F tilt is minus 16 on shield, while down tilt is minus 8. Meanwhile, Cloud's up smash comes out at frame 12, basically meaning that F tilt is too laggy, and down tilt is fast and safe enough to not get punished. But what if Cloud used the move that came out faster, like up B, which comes out at frame 7? Because Diddy's down tilt is minus 8 and Cloud's up B comes out at frame 7, it is one frame too slow from being safe. With all that laid out, how safe is Steve's up tilt? Well, it's safe enough to shield Cloud's up B. But is it safe enough to shield him from the fastest options in the game? These are the up specials of Mr. Game & Watch, Mario, Dr. Mario, and Lil Mac. All of these moves come out at a whopping frame 3. But are they fast enough to punish Steve up tilt? Yeah, no. This is because Steve up tilt is minus 3 on shield. This is extremely good, as there is no move fast enough to punish him. This is because Steve can shield on the exact same frame that the move comes out, allowing him to be safe. How safe up tilt is, as well as its damage and knockback, depends on the material that Steve has. Wood and stone are both minus 3, iron is minus 2, and gold and diamonds are both minus 1, making all of them virtually impossible to punish on shield. The only exception to this is Steve's punch, or when his axe breaks, which is minus 4, and can be punished by some moves. However, even with the lower damage and knockback of Steve's punch, sometimes this is preferable over Diamond Axe. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I mean, why not just grab Steve after he does up tilt? That's where the second reason comes in. Up tilt is fast, coming out at frame 6. This is exactly 1/10 of a second. It also only takes 16 total frames to finish, meaning you can do 4 up tilts in a bit over a second. Gold up tilt is even faster, coming out in frame 4, with 12 total frames for the move to finish. Check out how many up tilts Steve can do in such a short amount of time. Yeah, it's fast.
To come out, but the backer was just too fast. Whoa, he actually got through it. Wait a minute. No shot.
So we know up tilt is fast, but how good is the ability to move while using it? I think it's important to note that the few other characters that can move while using their moves are usually ranged, such as Mega Man's Lemons or Min Min's Arms, as opposed to Steve's up tilt, which is a close range move. So for example, it may seem like a good option to grab Steve after he does up tilt, as it'll catch him if he shields. However, Steve can avoid this by simply moving after doing up tilt, and then punishing the grab, as well as most options the opponent will try to do out of shield. Not that this matters, since Steve can just punish grab by doing another up tilt after the first one, negating any need to actually move away. Now there is something I've kind of neglected to talk about. What about jab? Steve's jab is very similar to up tilt. Both can be used while moving, as well as both being short, quick attacks that you can use at any time. However, there is one small but very important detail that makes Steve up tilt a way better move. Steve's jab is really unsafe. For example, here Steve can up tilt on Cloud's shield and walk backwards without any issues. However, with Steve's jab being -10, Cloud can act long before Steve is able to get out of the way, thus making it a way riskier option. Next up are the combos and confirms. But this is where things get a little bit different. This is where things get scary. With the help of his blocks, Steve is able to extend his combos with a tech called NIL, or No Impact Landing. By placing his block at a specific place with specific timing, Steve is able to extend his combos unlike any other character. Let me show you. Real quick, check out my boy Spencil. He makes really good high quality Smash content. Check him out. Alright, back to video. By using NIL, Steve is able to extend his combos much longer and higher than he ever could without them, allowing him to get some really early kills. I won't delve too deep into it here, but you can check out my boy Rockman's video on NILs. He goes more in depth into it. Just note that the timing is tight and can be tricky to get at times. So, who better to showcase this than Susu, Rockman, and of course, Akola, the best Steve player in the world. So let me show you just how powerful Steve up tilt can be when it's combined with NIL. Enjoy! Now, let's talk about kill confirms. But first, what are kill confirms? A confirm is a short combo, usually a few hits, that's meant to close out the stock against your opponent, while a combo is much more freeform and usually done just for damage. Basically, all confirms are combos, but not all combos are kill confirms, if that makes sense. And we already know Steve is not short-handed when it comes to any kind of combos. And fittingly, he has one of the easiest kill confirms in the game, up tilt to back air. This confirm is powerful, not just because of its easy execution and how reliable it is, but because even if you do miss it, you're still in a pretty advantageous position and are able to go for it again, without it being a huge commitment. If you want to get fancy, you can even go for a NIL to up smash. And if you really want to kill early, you can go for a NIL to F smash. But you can always lay back with something more reliable. However, these confirms still suffer the same problem as all other confirms. If the percentage is too high, they won't connect. However, there is a solution, at least for Steve. This is where the talk about Steep Punch being better than Diamond up tilt comes in. At least here, the much lower knockback of Steep Punch allows these confirms to work at even really high percents, turning what used to be a downside into an upside. Alright, so Steep up tilt is safe, it's fast and he can move by losing it, and it has some really good combos and confirms. But what about that secret force reason I was talking about earlier? Well, when the sun goes down and the night covers the stage, Steve will banish his opponents to Gay Baby Gel.
Gay baby gel?
I'll be going over a concept called shield pressure, and Steve up tilt is really good at it. Basically, when Steve is spamming up tilt under shield, how do you get out? Let's go over your options. Rolling in may seem like a really good option, but because Steve has to travel very little distance to catch up to you, it ends up being quite risky in plenty of situations. I know you mentioned grab earlier, but there are situations where the grab will clank with the Steve up tilt, although usually this isn't much better than just getting hit normally. There's also really rare circumstances where you can grab Steve in between his up tilts, although this is usually too risky to go for practically. This doesn't stop everyone though.
He shield grabbed. That's actually crazy. He shield grabbed Steve up tilting his shield.
With Cloud
With Cloud shield grab.
How good an up B, up smash, or aerial out of shield will be against Steve up tilt heavily depends on the character. Laggier and more risky moves are usually unadvised, as you're more likely to get punished, but there are other moves that are more safe to go for, so it varies heavily by character. Now, rolling away from Steve up tilt will allow you to get away from it, and you are even free to pick an option after rolling. But there is a catch. You have to make sure there is enough stage left so that when you roll, you don't get caught by Steve up tilt when he's walking forwards. However, this is still a pretty viable option. Alright, but what's stopping people from just jumping when Steve is spamming up tilt on their shield? Seems like a pretty straightforward solution, no? What's the catch? While it is a solid option, it is relatively easy to mistime your jump in between the up tilts and get you caught with the hits. However, there is a solution to this. Thanks to Rockman, he found that doing Phantom Footstool on Steve up tilt, which is when you footstool an opponent without the footstool animation coming out, you can get invincibility on your jump and get out safely. It will even look like Steve up tilt is inside your character's model, but it won't hit, allowing you to escape the barrage of up tilts. You can even use an air dodge to get more invincibility frames and get out safely. Just do note that results vary by character. Thanks Rockman! You can check out more of his videos for more Steve stuff like this. And this is how I would rank your options for getting out of Steve doing up tilt on your shield. Do note that you're completely free to do any of these options regardless of the ranking, as it all varies by character and situation. And in spite of all of this, there is still one more way for Steve to touch you. I am of course referring to shield poking, because your shield doesn't have infinite health. If Steve is spamming up tilt under shield, he will eventually break through and hit your model that is poking through the shield. However, to get shield poked in this game, there only needs to be a sliver of your model outside of the shield in order for you to get shield poked. This is really strong for Steve up tilt as it excels in shield damage, allowing Steve to shield poke you with another move afterwards. And of course, up tilt in and of itself can shield poke if the opponent's shield is already damaged. These are just some of the reasons of why I think Steve up tilt is the best move in the game. There's a whole laundry list of things I didn't mention, so don't think that Steve up tilt is limited to just the things I mentioned here today. Steve up tilt is out to get you, and nowhere is safe.
You were supposed to be a hero, Brian.
I'm thinking I like that name.